World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history. It lasted from 1939 to 1945 and changed the world forever. But the story of World War II did not begin on the battlefield. It began years earlier with broken countries, angry leaders, economic disasters, and a world full of tension waiting to explode. To truly understand this war, we must go back to the end of World War I, where everything started. After World War I ended in 1918, Germany was left defeated, humiliated, and poor. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to pay huge amounts of money, give up land, and accept responsibility for the entire war. Millions of Germans felt angry and betrayed. Their economy collapsed. Families lost their homes. People stood in long lines just to buy bread. And in this moment of suffering, a new leader rose, Adolf Hitler. Hitler promised to restore Germany, bring back pride, rebuild the economy, and create a powerful nation again. Many people supported him because they were desperate for hope. But behind his promises was a dark plan. Hitler wanted to expand German territory, remove people he believed were unfit, and create a world ruled by his ideology. He created a strong dictatorship, controlled the media, eliminated opponents, and built one of the most powerful armies in Europe. Meanwhile, other parts of the world were also changing. Japan wanted more land and resources. Italy, led by Mussolini, dreamed of rebuilding the Roman Empire. The Soviet Union, led by Joseph Stalin, was growing in power. The United States wanted to stay out of foreign conflicts. And Europe was still weak from the last war. This combination of angry nations, powerful leaders, and global fear created the perfect environment for the next World War. The first major step toward war happened in 1931, when Japan invaded Manchuria in China. The world protested, but nobody stopped Japan. This showed aggressive countries that the world was too scared or too weak to fight back. In 1935, Italy invaded Ethiopia. Again, nobody stopped them. Step by step, strong countries were testing how far they could go. Hitler watched this closely. If Japan and Italy could invade other nations and get away with it, then Germany could do the same. So in 1936, Hitler sent troops into the Rhineland, a place he was forbidden to enter. Other nations protested, but again no one stopped him. This boosted Hitler's confidence. He believed he could rebuild the German Empire without anyone standing in his way. Hitler then made alliances with Italy and Japan, forming the Axis powers. Together, they planned to dominate Europe and Asia. In 1938, Hitler took over Austria, claiming that Austrians were German people. Many Austrians actually welcomed him because they believed it would fix their economy. The world watched but did nothing. Then Hitler wanted Czechoslovakia. He demanded a region called the Sudetenland. European leaders met with Hitler and agreed to give him the land if he promised not to take more. They believed this would keep peace. But the truth is, Hitler was never planning peace. Within months, he took the rest of Czechoslovakia. Now the world finally understood. Hitler would not stop. War was coming. In 1939, Hitler made one more shocking move. He signed a secret agreement with the Soviet Union called the Nazi-Soviet Pact. In this deal, Germany and the Soviet Union agreed not to attack each other, and they would divide Poland between them. This shocked the world because Hitler hated communism, but he signed it because it allowed him to attack Poland without worrying about the Soviets. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland using a tactic called blitzkrieg, lightning war. This strategy used fast tanks, planes, and soldiers to break through defenses quickly. Within weeks, Poland was crushed. The Soviet Union invaded from the east, taking the other half of Poland. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. World War II had officially begun. After taking Poland, Hitler turned his attention to Western Europe. In April 1940, he invaded Denmark and Norway. Both countries fell quickly. Then in May, Hitler launched a massive attack on Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. The German army moved so fast that the French defenses collapsed. By June, Paris had fallen. France-sur-Andred, almost all of Europe was now under Hitler's control. Only one major nation remained free in Western Europe, the United Kingdom. Hitler expected Britain to surrender, but they refused. So he launched the Battle of Britain, an air war to destroy Britain's defenses. German planes bombed cities, factories, and airports. London was attacked night after night. But the Royal Air Force fought back with bravery. British radar technology allowed them to track German planes. The courage of British pilots forced Hitler to give up his plan to invade Britain. This was Hitler's first major failure. While Europe was burning, Japan continued expanding in Asia. They took parts of China, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. Japan wanted control of oil, rubber, and military bases. But the United States opposed Japan's expansion. The U.S. cut off Japan's oil supply, putting Japan in a desperate position. Without oil, Japan's military would collapse. Japan decided to strike. First, on December 7, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The attack destroyed ships, planes, and killed thousands of soldiers. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. Soon after, Germany declared war on the United States. Now the war had become truly global. By 1942, the Axis powers controlled huge parts of Europe, Asia, and the Pacific. But the Allies, the United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, China, and many others worked together to push back. One of the most important battles happened in the Soviet Union, the Battle of Stalingrad. Hitler wanted the city because it was a major industrial center and symbolically named after Stalin. The battle was brutal. Street by street, building by building, soldiers fought in freezing winter conditions. Millions died, but the Soviet army refused to surrender. In February 1943, the German army was surrounded and forced to give up. This was a turning point in the war. After Stalingrad, Germany never recovered. Meanwhile, in North Africa, German General Erwin Rommel was fighting the British. Rommel was a brilliant commander, known as the Desert Fox. But the British army, supported by American supplies, defeated him at the Battle of El Alamein. This pushed the Axis forces out of Africa. In the Pacific, the United States won two major battles, the Battle of Midway and the Battle of Guadalcanal. These victories weakened Japan's navy and gave the U.S. control of important islands. Now the Allies were gaining power. On all fronts, Hitler desperately tried to hold his territory, but he was losing soldiers, tanks, and supplies. The Soviet Union pushed from the east. The Americans and British prepared to attack from the west. And that moment, the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany, leads us to the next chapter of this war. AS 1943 turned into 1944. The war had completely changed. The Allies were no longer defending. They were attacking from every direction. Germany was losing power, losing soldiers, losing factories, and losing hope. But Adolf Hitler refused to surrender. He ordered his armies to fight until the last moment, even as the whole world closed in around him. The Soviet Union was pushing from the east, taking back thousands of towns and cities that Germany had captured. The Germans were exhausted, freezing, starving, and surrounded. In the west, the United States and the United Kingdom prepared for one of the largest military operations in history, a mission to open a new front in Europe and break Hitler's control forever. That mission would be known as D-Day. On June 6, 1944, before sunrise, thousands of Allied ships crossed the English Channel and approached the beaches of Normandy, France. More than 150,000 soldiers took part in this invasion. The Germans had built huge defenses along the coast, with machine guns, artillery, mines, and steel obstacles. The fighting was brutal. Waves of soldiers were cut down as they tried to land, but slowly, step by step, the Allies broke through the German defenses. By the end of the day, they had secured all 5 landing beaches. D-Day was successful. It marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. After Normandy, the Allies spread across France. Cities were liberated one by one. French resistance fighters helped disrupt German operations from inside the country. In August, Paris was freed from German control. As the Allies marched forward, German forces retreated but continued fighting fiercely. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union captured territory at an incredible speed. Millions of Soviet soldiers pushed west, driving Germany back toward its own borders. Hitler began losing trust in his generals. He made desperate decisions. He ordered battles that made no sense. He refused to retreat even when defeat was certain, costing thousands of German lives. In late 1944, Hitler launched one last major attack in Western Europe, the Battle of the Bulge. German forces surprised the Allies in Belgium, breaking through the front line. For a moment, it looked like Germany might turn the war around, but the Allies held strong. After heavy fighting, Germany's attack collapsed. They lost thousands of tanks, aircraft, and soldiers they could never replace. By early 1945, Germany was surrounded completely. The Soviets approached Berlin from the east. The Americans, British, and French advanced from the west. Cities were destroyed. Supplies were gone. Factories no longer worked. The German people suffered greatly. Inside Berlin, Hitler hid in an underground bunker. He refused to leave. He refused to surrender. He gave orders that had no meaning. He dreamed of a victory that was no longer possible. In April 1945, Soviet forces entered Berlin. The city was turned into a battlefield. Buildings burned, streets collapsed, and thousands died every day. Hitler realized the war was lost. On April 30th, 1945, he ended his life inside the bunker. A week later, Germany officially surrendered. In Europe, the war was finally over. But World War II was not finished. The Pacific was still burning. Japan continued fighting against the United States, China, Australia, and other allies. Japan's strategy was to hold as much territory as possible and make the war so costly that America might give up. But the United States refused to stop. American forces used a strategy called island hopping, capturing one island at a time. Japan's Navy and Air Force were almost completely destroyed. Japan's military leaders still refused to surrender. They believed surrender was dishonorable. They trained civilians to fight with bamboo sticks if America invaded. The United States realized that invading Japan would cost millions of lives. So the U.S. made a very different and extremely powerful decision. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the world's first atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima. The explosion destroyed the city instantly. Tens of thousands died within seconds. Buildings turned to dust. The sky filled with fire. Still, Japan did not surrender. 3 days later, on August 9th, a second atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. The destruction was unimaginable. Japan's leaders finally understood that further fighting would destroy the entire nation. On August 15, 1945, Japan announced its surrender. World War II had finally come to an end. The war had lasted 6 years. More than 60 million people died. Soldiers, civilians, children, families, entire communities. Cities were destroyed across Europe. And Asia, the world had witnessed the darkest side of human power, but also the courage of millions who fought for freedom. After the war, the world changed forever. The United States and the Soviet Union became superpowers. The United Nations was created to prevent another global conflict. Countries rebuilt their economies, their governments, and their societies. Germany was divided into East and West. Japan rewrote its entire political system. New technologies, new alliances, and new fears shaped the next era of history, including the beginning of the Cold War. World War II taught humanity lessons that must never be forgotten. It showed the danger of dictatorship, racism, and unchecked power. It showed how ordinary people suffer when leaders choose violence. But it also showed bravery, unity, and sacrifice. The world we live in today, our borders, our politics, our alliances, all exist because of the events of world. War II, it was a war that reshaped nations, destroyed empires, and redefined what humanity is capable of. And even though the war ended in 1945, its impact continues to shape our world more than 80 years later. Voiceover, this is the story of World War II, its rise, its destruction, and its lasting legacy. A war that began with fear, expanded through ambition, and ended with unimaginable power. A war that changed everything. And a history we must always remember. Thanks for watching Infinity Documentary. Don't forget to subscribe.